It should come as no surprise that a system dedicated to turning people against each other and constantly going to war is terrible for your mental health. It really shouldn't. The damage it does is really beyond question. 21% of adults are experiencing at least one mental illness. That's roughly 50 million people. 55% of adults with a mental illness have not received any treatment. 5.44% of adults experience severe mental illness. Over 12.1% million adults, or 4.8, have reported serious thoughts of suicide. This figure more than doubles when surveying adults who identify as two or more races. The states faring the poorest, including Kansas, Arizona, and Oregon, all report high percentages of adults with mental illnesses and thoughts of suicide. Even among youth with severe depression who receive treatment, only 27% receive consistent care. In states with the least access, only 12% receives consistent care. And of course, young adults suffer the worst. In 2021, 33.7% of young adults 18 to 25 experienced a mental illness. Common forms of mental illness include depression, anxiety, and mood disorders. As usual, women were affected more than men. As an interesting side note, it also disproportionately affects biracial individuals. What makes mental illness in capitalism particularly pernicious is the way it's internalized by people. And what do I mean by internalization? In psychology, this is known as introjection or identification. The American Psychological Association defines it as a process in which an individual unconsciously incorporates aspects of external reality into the self, particularly the attitudes, values, and qualities of another person or a part of another person's personality. Introjection may occur, for example, in the mourning process for a loved one. Another definition is, in psychoanalytic theory, the process of absorbing the qualities of an external object into the psyche in the form of an internal object or mental representation, i.e. an introject, which then has an influence on behavior. It means that the basic values, the most promoted, are the ones that get taken into you and a part of your mind and a part of your personality and cognitive functioning. They become a part of your unconscious process that influence how you think. And as the saying goes, you are not immune to propaganda. Those basic values of capitalism, the foundational ideas, they're not good for your mental health and are not good for people in general. Capitalism creates a system that places as many barriers against your success as possible if you're not born into a rich family. The availability of higher education provided on a profit motive basis ensures that it's not given to those who have the ability to excel, but those who it is profitable to give it to. A system of systemic inequality gaslights you into thinking that you're bad, not worthy, when really it's a system keeping you from succeeding. Capitalism hyperfixated on the individual, so one does not see the systemic functioning. They tell us that capitalism is a perfect system that allows anyone to succeed, so if you don't, you did something wrong. Or there's something inherently wrong with you. Human beings, by our very nature, need connections to each other. All science proves this. We want to belong and identify with each other. Capitalism tells us different. Our identity as human beings are erased in favor of identity-based consumption. People identify with their type of music, brand of clothing, or favorite sports team, the nationalist identity, more than they do each other. This leads to a great deal of alienation, and that alienation perpetuates false ideas like racism, etc. Your self-worth is defined by how much you have, your socioeconomic status. Your value in society is determined by it as well. If you're low on the social order, it's going to affect how you feel about yourself. And no, you're not immune from this effect. Your collection of physical commodities and their price is held up as a goal, a measure of your success, and thus your worth. Place that into the context of a disadvantaged situation, and you have the recipe for a mental health disaster. This is to say nothing of the psychological stress that people go through in struggling to provide for their basic needs. A paper by Kevin M. Simon and Michael Better shows poverty is one of the most significant social determinants of health and mental health, intersecting with all other determinants including education, local social and community connections, race, ethnicity, gender, immigration status, health, access to healthcare, neighborhood factors, and the built environment, i.e. homes, buildings, streets, parks, infrastructure. The mental health effects of poverty are wide-ranging and reach across the lifespan. Individuals who experience poverty, particularly in early life or an extended period, are at risk of a host of adverse health and developmental outcomes through their life. Poverty in childhood is associated with lower school achievement, worse cognitive, behavioral, and attention-related outcomes, higher rates of delinquency, depressive and anxiety disorders, and higher rates of almost every psychiatric disorder in adulthood. Poverty in adulthood is linked to depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, psychological distress, and suicide. Literally, the worst thing for human beings is poverty. And poverty is the very thing that capitalism is built upon. The idea that capitalism could ever get rid of poverty is simply nonsense. It's literally had hundreds of years to prove that it could do it. It can't. That's the point. That's the point of a system of inequality. For one person to have more, another person has to have less. And for someone to have extreme amounts of wealth, others have to have extreme poverty. That's literally how it works. That's even a basic understanding of the market mechanism. Poverty is the worst thing. Capitalism is predicated upon poverty. There really is no getting around this. There is no alternate view that changes this reality. Capitalism is a terrible system, and it has to go. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.